Hello, good people of YouTube. Mountbatten here, and today we're going to be talking about CVs and clan battles. Now, what I've done is I've compiled a bunch of observations that our clan has seen as we've gone through clan battles this season, and there's pros and cons. And I'm not here to hate on CVs. We're just going to talk about some things that we have observed as we've gone through clan battles. And there is some good. There's actually a decent bit of good, in my opinion. But, there's still some issues that Wargaming needs to work on, and we will see that as we go through. So, again, I'm not here to hate on CVs. We're just talking about what this season of clan battles has been like with CVs in it. So let's go ahead and get started with that. So first off, we're going to start with the negatives, and we're going to end with the pros and kind of end on a happy note rather than a negative note. So first thing, CVs of course negate flanking tactics, because if a ship goes off by themselves, they of course get absolutely murdered by the CV. Now, I've said this before, if you go off by yourself, you kind of deserve to get targeted, and that is still true, but when a ship goes off by themselves, they have their detection range to work with, and for a destroyer, for example, in clan battles, more often than not in the previous seasons, you would maybe send a destroyer out by himself on a wide flank to keep the enemy team spotted. And things, I'm not saying that, Shimakaze is good to use in ranked, especially not this season, but ships like Shimakaze could be especially good at this role because, of course, they have a very small detection range and they have a very large supply of torpedoes, which is very useful in messing with the enemy players, and that's all been pretty much just stopped this season because the CV is of course going to hear from his teammates that they're being perma-spotted, and then he's going to send his planes out to go find whatever ship is on the flank. So that's been all pretty much erased this season. There's been a couple of examples of it working, and we'll talk about that later, but on a large scale, that's just gone. Next thing is that CVs can still get full strikes through on groups of three or more on groups of three or more ships, even if they all have decent AA. I'm sorry, not three or more, three or less ships, if they still have decent AA. And we've been running ships like Puerto Rico, Salem, Stalingrad, Moskva, ships with AA ranging from decent to very good, and we've had groups, every combination of these ships together, and the CV can still get their planes through and deliver a full strike to whatever ship we're trying to defend. Even if we pop DFAA and all that, they can still get through. And that's a big underlying problem that I have with AA and with carriers, and being that if you do not have, and this is the next point too, if you don't have some type of ship combination with just god tier AA, you can't really negate the attacking power of that carrier, because you have to chew through their entire squadron within 10 to 15 seconds is and that's probably a bit on the longer side, the attack time of most carriers. Because and again, keep in mind, these ships are going to be hugging islands and such to where their AA can't get at the planes until they have line of sight on the planes, and you've got maybe 10 seconds to chew through an entire squadron of planes. And just the way AA works now, that's just not happening. So if you have, let's say, a Salem, a Puerto Rico, and a Stalingrad all grouped up together, and we've had this happen before, and the enemy CV, Mahakuru, by far the most popular choice this season, wants to get at that Salem and erase over half of his health in one dive bomber strike. He can do that, and there's not a whole lot that the other ships can do. And again, it does come down to the skill of the Hakuru player if he's good at dodging flak, which most of them are if they're playing it in clan battles. But I mean, there's the occasional potato CV here and there. Talk about that in a second. He can still get through. There's not a lot you can do about it, and that's an issue. Okay, next point is, of course, DDs are almost useless this season, considering roughly 80% of the games that we played are CV games. And of course, that's no big secret there. The destroyer population is by far very, very low in this season of clan battles, and for obvious reasons. DDs don't like being perma-spotted by planes and don't like having to deal with rocket planes, and I can't really blame them. So DD's roles of spotting and maybe harassing a flank with torpedoes, or occasionally gunboating to grab the attention of the enemy team or whatever. That's almost extinct this season, but more on that later. So the core ships that are in this season, because for those that don't know, this is a CV season, but you also have the option to take a battleship. But if you take a battleship, you can't take a CV. So the rest of the ships, light and heavy cruisers, they are some of the most vulnerable to carrier attacks. A battleship has the armor and the health pool to eat multiple waves of CV attacks, and it also has a good amount of AA. Most of the tier 10 battleships have at least decent AA still. There are a couple examples of ships that do have good AA, like Montana and Conqueror. Most of the battleships we ran across have actually been Montana's, because she still does have the best AA out of the rest of the tier 10 battleships. I know Kremlin has a 100 AA rating, but Montana can still take that fighter squadron consumable, and as janky as that consumable is, that will save your butt more than a few times. I know it's really janky, and that consumable needs to be worked on, because it seems like it takes forever for the planes to actually get on the attacking planes sometimes, but still, when it works, that will absolutely chew through a squadron. And the carrier dropping fighters, of course, that would chew through a squadron too, but keep in mind, they can't give everybody AA cover, and still, those planes don't respond fast enough sometimes too. So, again, heavy cruisers, light cruisers with less armor, they are very vulnerable to CV attacks. Again, with Hakrus being a very popular choice this season because of their AP bombers. I mean, I played Stalingrad, played Salem, played Puerto Rico. Doesn't matter what ship you're in, it's going to chunk you a lot when those dive bombers get through. Because it's not a matter of if those dive bombers get through, it's more of a matter of a when most times. Again, when the fighter consumables work and when the fighter squadrons do finally decide to attack, they do save you, but again, that's maybe once every however often the carrier can get them to you. And keep in mind, the carrier is going to have to be providing that for the rest of the team, and it's very rough for the carrier player to do that. Okay, next thing is, of course, the CVs also decrease the effectiveness of tactical positions, since again, most of these positions, it's hugging an island. Your AA can't get on the planes until they're over the side of the island. At that point, they are probably already starting their attack run, and there's honestly just not a lot you can do about that. A lot of positions that I've been in, I've been forced to either dislodge or just die from the carrier. And again, that's not necessarily a bad thing, forcing you to move from a position, but again, when you can't do a lot to mitigate the effectiveness of that airplane squadron, it is still very frustrating. Next, of course, it's a clan with a carrier versus a clan with no carrier has just a straight up huge advantage this season. I thought that maybe this season it was going to match clans with carriers to clans with other carriers, but surprisingly, we've ran across quite a few clans running battleships, and of course, we have a huge advantage over those teams. That is, of course, coming down to player choice. But keep in mind too, if you're just starting up a clan and trying to get into clan battles, you may not have a good carrier player. And I mean, the carrier player population, it's grown with the CV rework, but it's still a very small percentage of the overall player population of World Warships. You have plenty of battleship mains, plenty of cruiser mains, plenty of destroyer mains, but I mean, carriers are, they're not the largest population ever, and very good carrier players are few and far in between. Now, I'm not ragging on carrier players. I'm just saying that's just how it is most times. So, and again, that leads into the next point, where the skill gap between the friendly CV and the enemy CV is the determining factor a lot of time in these clan battles. We've seen carriers absolutely carry their team this season of clan battles. I'm talking about the carrier having 6 of the 7 kills, and we've seen that more than a few times this round. Alright, so now all the negative stuff is out of the way. Let's look at some of the good stuff. So, this is the pros now, just to be clear. The new tactics being used to deal with CVs, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You're forcing people to kind of break from a lot of the old strategies and stuff and come up with new strategies and new ship compositions to be used, and players do have to stick together a lot more, which again, that in and of itself isn't a bad thing, kind of forcing players to break from old methods being used and old ship comps to come up with new ones. That's not really a bad thing. That does tend to keep the game fresh, if you will. So that I see that's a good thing. And we have had success running destroyers, and I do feel sorry for Misha, because more often than not, Misha, our DD player and a Kleber of all things, he's been excellent CV bait more than a couple of games where the CV just gets a bloodlust to kill the destroyer. And since it's a Kleber and Misha's very good at dodging and running at warp 5, he's managed to keep the CV occupied for well over half the battle. So the DD population is low, but with the right DD and the player with the proper skills, it can still work. And, if played properly, it can work. And surprisingly, our meme team, our Bravo division, they've had quite some success running with a BB. So it is possible to make a battleship work, and I'm not going to lie, we've been defeated a handful of times by clans running with a BB, because when you're taking a bunch of cruisers that have decent AA, they normally don't have a whole lot of health, and when you've got a battleship with 99, 95, 96, 97, 100,000 health to use, that is still a big advantage, even though they are getting dunked on by the carrier. But like I said earlier, battleships, in the average length of a clan battles game, it takes time to chew through a battleship's health. So if the battleship's playing it properly and staying out of a position where he can get crossfired on, then yeah, it can work, and it has worked a couple of times at least. And a thing that we've all noticed is that a very popular strategy, which we've started to use, and I believe you've been watching here in the background, is a Zerg Rush, where you just roll. You don't stop, and you go. You just go through a cap, force the enemy team out of it, chase them to their next cap, and the idea behind this is you just try to roll over the enemy team before their carrier has time to dunk on you. So I like that. You guys know I'm a very aggressive player, and I like the Zerg Rush strat, and it's been one of the more effective ones this season of clan battles. So that's a good positive. So overall, it's been a very interesting season so far. The CVs, it's not as bad as I feared, but the season still has highlighted a lot of issues with the carrier rework that still need to be worked. For example, A versus planar interaction, the gap between the enemy CV, the skill level gap between the enemy CV and the friendly CV, which again, that does come down just to the player, but still a very skilled CV player is a very, very, very good asset. Like, I'm talking about hand of God asset. So CVs have a very high skill ceiling, if you get what I'm saying. And the new strategies are refreshing. Rather than having a staring contest and HE spam for about 20 minutes, the Zerg Rush is a lot funner to do. But it is still very frustrating to be the target of a carrier, since there is almost nothing you can do in most cases besides focusing your AA and popping DFAA to mitigate the damage coming at you, because even with torpedoes you can dodge some of them at times. Just if it's a good carrier player, he can drop that to where he's assuring that you can at least eat one or two of his torpedoes, which in a cruiser, that's a decent chunk of your health just gone. Keep in mind, I've played Stalin, Salem, and PR this season, all with DFAA and all with pretty good AA. Salem even having excellent AA, and that's still happening to me. And again, with AP and HE, you can do a lot more to negate that damage, because you can angle against AP and mind your position for both AP and HE. And for HE, you can balance your damage con and your heal if you're in a cruiser with a heal. So in conclusion, CV still needs some tuning before they come back to clan battles. I do hope Wargaming has seen what happens this season and uses that data to improve upon the next season. And if they could maybe improve upon AA interaction a bit more, make it a bit more, I don't know, and that's the thing too, because carriers, they have a very important part in naval warfare history, and they did change the way naval battles were fought almost overnight. So they're a very difficult thing to balance. So I can sit here and tell you all the problems with carriers, and I can think of one or two solutions, but in the end, it's in Wargaming's hands what they're going to do with it and how they're going to tweak it. And that's the question. What can be done to fix this? And a lot of people will say, well, just remove carriers from clan battles. Yeah, but they are a part of the game, and I can't sit here and say that, it should go back to just having battleships, cruisers, and destroyers being in clan battles, because, if they're a class in the game, they should have a position in clan battles, but it also needs to be a balanced position. And what we're seeing right now, is it balanced? I don't want to get into the camp of, yes, CVs need to be removed, or no, CVs should stay. You're just a potato if you can't handle CVs. I'm really in the middle, because I can see why people say they're overpowered. I've been the subject of many Hakuru AP bombs this season, and the perma spotting and all that. But again, they're part of the game. I think they should be part of clan battles, but they still need work at the end of the day. Either way, it still needs work. Hope Wargaming can improve upon it, and we will see where this goes. Let me know what you guys think about CVs and clan battles. What do you think can be done to improve upon them for next season? Or do you think they should just be removed outright? Let me know in the comments down below. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Friday. Make sure to join us for the stream this evening at 1 p.m. U.S. Central Time until 3 p.m. U.S. Central Time. Hope to see you guys there. Hope you enjoyed the video. And hope to catch you guys in the next one.